GOGI, learn those tools, real lessons to live by.
I'm so grateful you're here because we're going to be talking about relationships and how maybe one person might need to use a tool, the other person needs the tool as well. There's collisions going on, there's chaos going on. How does a relationship improve when you have the GOGI Life tools? So we've got a little bit of time together. I just want individuals to experience what's it like to have the language of the GOGI Life tools in a relationship. Coach Johnny, talk a little bit about when you first became married, your first home, you're setting up your household. GRep Cynthia wasn't GRep Cynthia. She was in chaos. She was anxious. She was upset. How did you make the transition from you do GOGI to we do GOGI? How did that happen?
So I think the transition actually started while I was in prison. We'd go to visit and I would have like at least 30 minutes to an hour of just GOGI conversations, anger management, all of that. And I think like a misconception that most people have is that because we've been doing the work inside for the last 10 years, our family members haven't. And behaviors learned. And, relationships are like the LAX airport, like everybody brings baggage. And are you committed and love somebody enough to help them unpack it? And believe me, I'm not cured. She'll tell you, you have evidence of that yourself. And just understand that it's a growing process. And I think one is like living by example. So when stress does come up, when, life shows up, how am I going to respond? And GOGI's been an amazing opportunity to deal with life on life's terms.
So Cynthia, you go to a prison visit, you want to see Johnny, you want to just vent about everything that's going on, the kids, the cats, the this, the that. And he starts saying, well, you have this GOGI tool. Did you first say, wow, yes, this is great? Or did you first say, shut up and just listen to me vent for a while? I'm angry. I have every reason to be angry. What was that? What was that transition like? Because a lot of our students say that they try to introduce the tools to their family. Their family don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, I wasn't very receptive at first. He would bring out a little handout and it would say, and he would do anger management with me. He will bring it out and try to explain it to me and try and tell me how to belly breathe. He would try and tell me how to use the what if, he was trying to teach me these tools, but I was like, I just drove 6 hours to come visit you. I don't want to hear about anything, tell me how you are. And I think that's the big problem that happens once, our husbands come home, because then, we don't have these tools. First of all, we're not learning anything. Like we're learning what we see from our parents, yelling, fighting, no communication. You go in your room, I'll go in my room. And that's not healthy. And, so then Johnny came home and Johnny expected me to be the calm, submissive wife. And I'm far from that. So,
she is now.
I'm a lot 7 years later.
Yeah.
7 years later, I've learned a lot. He's taught me a lot. And, I attribute that a lot to GOGI. I listen more, he'll teach me tools. He'll show me how, not to be such a stress monster and things like that. And so, but it took a long time. It took about 4 years. I'm a lot better.
So 4 years, that's a long time to hang in there with a situation that's still not perfect. 4 years is a long time to try to acclimate to each other and grow and learn. Coach Johnny, what was it like for you coming out and saying, I've got these tools, I know how to do this. Why are you so stressed out? How did you allow for her to come to you and start to use the tools? What was your strategy?
So one is a lot of conversations with you. Two is just being able to live them, live the tools. Understanding that, like I said, just because I had 10 years of self-help and working on myself, not everybody does that out here. In fact, not many people do it at all. Behaviors learned, they've acted a certain way. They have experiences from their past that most people respond from. And I love her enough to be patient, and she's patient with me. I'm not cured either. And it's just a growing process.
Let's talk about the patience, because a lot of people love a lot of people.
Mhm.
But you're grating on me. Stop pushing. Don't poke the bears. Calm down. Settle down. I gotta leave. These are emotions that really bypass the love that we have for each other. It rattles us. And if a man is coming home, or if a woman is coming home and their partner is constantly anxious and not learning, I mean, we're talking 4 years to kind of develop in a sweet spot where you're both harmonious and communicating far more. How does somebody have that level of patience needed for it to come together so harmoniously?
So for myself, is like I was committed to a criminal and gang lifestyle for 20, 30 years. And I invested time in that. And it didn't come overnight either. And if I look at my wife and I look at our family, I'm more committed to this than I was the old lifestyle. And I'm willing to be patient. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to listen. And I invite her into conversations. I'm like, babe, can I talk to you about something? And for me, like if I woke up in the morning in prison and complained about everything that wasn't going right, I would never have gotten out of prison. And I understand that's a process of understanding that it takes time. Like people were patient with me. When I first started going to groups, I was in the back of self-help groups talking about, do you want to get high? And they're like, we're in a 12-step NA group and you're talking about getting high. What is wrong with you? And the patience that people have with me, I practice with others, not just my wife, but, you know, the community and people I work with. And so it's just a process, and I'm committed to the rest of our lives together. I'm committed to living this GOGI way and invite her into it.
So GRep Cynthia, now you're actively working on completing a GOGI course, but it's almost like every day, almost, I get an email that you're logging in and you're helping GOGI with some things. What are you doing now for GOGI?
Right now, I'm logging in the completions for all of our students. I'm making sure that, you know, that all the work is done, and I make sure to the best of my ability, I try and get all of their certificates and chronos, you know, to the right place. That's what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm. And how did you get involved to that level? So from somebody going up to visiting, saying, I just want to hear about you. I don't want to hear about GOGI. I want to hear about you, to now you have Friday night GOGI date night, you guys. Yeah. How did that transition happen?
Well, when Johnny came out, I thought he was just going to come out and, you know, Johnny's out, you know, I have a husband now, but Johnny, he still does groups. He still does GOGI on Monday night, Tuesday night. He does GOGI on Tuesday night. He still does CGA meetings. He still does meetings that he did when he was home. And at first I didn't understand why, like, why do you need all that? But, you know, living with him and, you know, seeing the work that he does and how it helps both of us, you know, and then I became invested. I wanted to learn more. And, you know, then I went to visit you, I met you, and, you know, it just, for me, it's about when I go to the prisons and I meet the students, it's so rewarding to see, you know, some of them in their blues, and then they come home and it's like, yay, they have, you know, they have freedom, they have what we have. And so I think being of service to them is what hooked me. Like I was hooked. So that's where I'm at now, you know.
I think something really quick, coaches, it's interesting too, because I had a conversation with one of the coaches that's inside of prison, and they said, how do people get out and then they just go right back to it? And my experience is that the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you identify your purpose. And once you identify your purpose of service and, you know, the tool, you know, ultimate freedom, what happens is you stay committed to that, and you understand, like, this is what's keeping me free, like continuously being of service. Coach Al, on the 8th, I believe, on a Saturday, he's going to go hand out food and clothes to the unhoused. And what we're going to do is we're going to go help them, and continuing to find ways to be of service and help and make the community a better place than we lived, than we left it.
Would you say that that's one of the strongest aspects of your marriage is that you are both service minded? Would you say that that is a glue for you?
Definitely.
Yes.
And like crazy glue.
Mhm.
Because one,
Crazy glue.
it's not about us. It's like, when we do, start thinking about bills and everything else, and it's like, man, I could still be in a prison cell. And you could still be driving 6 hours to go visit me, but we're not.
Mhm.
We're out here and we have the opportunity to help others and sit with others and just listen sometimes.
Cynthia, what message would you have for somebody who's making that 6 hour drive and they just want to be with their person? Can we talk about what kind of thought would you want to share with somebody that isn't involved with the GOGI Life tools, doesn't really know much about it, but their significant other is making some conversations about it?
I would tell them that I would invite them to start learning about GOGI because it is a lifestyle. There are tools that will help them when he gets out and they're having a bad day, or, things are not going the way they want them to go, because, people think they get out of prison and you're out of prison, everything is going to be great. And it's not. You have to find housing, you have to get a job, you don't have credit. There's a lot of things that go into it. And I think, if you start working on yourself along with your spouse in prison, the transition will be a lot easier, a lot better for them as a couple.
And what would you say, Coach Johnny, for somebody who is studying GOGI, they're so excited about it, they just want the world to be GOGI. What would you recommend for them?
One is patience. One is living it. They'll see the difference. And in other 12-step groups, they talk about, do you want what somebody else has? And the peace that comes with it, and the tranquility, and just the mindset. People could recognize when people are living the GOGI way. And when people see that, they're like, okay, what is that? Instead of just forcing it on them and trying to force feed somebody, sometimes that's not the best way. Sometimes when they spot it in you, they're like, okay, I'm seeing that it's working. And it's an opportunity just to live by example.
So is your marriage based on service and being an example? Would you say that that's what you offer the community? Is that part of your purpose?
Oh, that's definitely a part of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's what we like. We both work together very well in being of service. So I think that's definitely something that keeps us together, as well as, the way we communicate. Johnny has taught me how to communicate instead of yelling, instead of shouting.
So you had to kind of unwind everything that you were seeing from your family and learn a brand new way.
Yes. Even with work, I mean, everything, there's a lot of stressors out here, and, I have learned a lot of tools that help me. So, and then, and even with learning all the tools, it's made our marriage stronger. It's made us, better friends, better, better everything, things are just better for us.
Awesome. Coach Johnny, what are your final thoughts as we kind of close up this session talking about relationships, specifically your relationship and the GOGI Life tools? What are your final thoughts for the viewer?
So for me, I have an amazing life, and a lot of that is due to my wife. A lot of that is due to God and the service that you've invited me into in 2010. Some people may not know, but you walked into a gym with 100 men by yourself and said, if you want to be free, be of service to your community. And that's where it began. I still have a lot to learn, but I know that I'm open-minded, and I know that I'm willing, and I know that I love my wife. I know I'm committed, and it's going to be, take patience. And one is continue the work that we started in there. It doesn't stop because you got out. Understanding that it's not going to, every day is not going to be rainbows and unicorns. So having a language, there's a book talk about the 5 love languages. Well, the 6th one is GOGI. And they should probably add that to the next book. But also understanding that when you have a different language. So there was a time when Cynthia raised her voice at me, and there's still some strongholds and old belief patterns that I once had, that, you know, you don't raise your voice to me. Like, I didn't let somebody in prison do that for me, to me in 28 years. However, I know she's not my cellie. I can't throw her stuff on the tier, put her under the bunk. Those aren't options anymore. So for me, is understanding that we all of us, sometimes still respond from our past. And sometimes I'll ask her, where's that coming from? And she'll tell me the past. And we'll have a conversation about, okay, so where do we want to go together? What does our future look like? What if we communicated better? What if we asked each other what we wanted? You know, because it's easy to say, oh, I want you to respect me, but what does that mean? Ask for clarity and invite each other into conversations like, babe, can I talk to you about something? And, you know, also just knowing that we're committed to each other. And when some of the past comes up, we're going to work through it.
Mhm.
I'm not going nowhere. And understanding what works for me. Like, hey, I need a couple minutes. I need to go take a walk. And explaining to her some of my coping skills and strategies. And just know that I love her and I'm committed to her, and will forever be grateful to GOGI.
Well, I'm so grateful that you two stand as a fine example of how to live a life of service. And certainly you do this through your church, through your civic opportunities, through your GOGI, and even through your family. And I've just got to say how proud I am of both of you. And I'm just so grateful for all that you have to offer. Thank you so much for
you,
your
Coach.
time today. Yeah, I appreciate you both very much. I love you.
Love you too,
Love you
Coach.
too,
Thank you
Coach.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Bye.
G-O-D high. G-O-D high. Go, he told me this, I gotta do it.